Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this session. This is going to be very different from whatever you have heard today. So I'm Manali Ghosh. I am a senior postdoctoral recruiter at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and today we are going to talk about, what to look for when searching for a postdoctoral fellowship, and I'll give you a perspective from St. Jude. Feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions. Going to be very informal, and hopefully we'll get done before you have to go for posters. So let's start with who is a postdoc fellow. Hopefully, like most of you are probably in the end stages of your PhD. So if you want to continue in, training, a postdoc fellow is an individual who is holding a doctoral degree or an advanced degree and engaged in a temporary period of mentored research. So this is mainly the goals when you become a postdoc. The goals should be, additional training. And something we really motivate you to think of is to go beyond, what you are doing right now in your PhD. So learn some more transferable skills, like what you are gaining in PhD, take that, maybe go and learn a new technique, or maybe go to a separate field. And hone these transferable skills, right? And then maybe you want to expand beyond academia. So during postdoc also you should be trying to grow your professional side as well, other than research, for example. So for example, teaching opportunities, right? So maybe look for those when you are doing a postdoc. And then the main goal is, as a postdoc, you're still considered a trainee, but then the final goal is to transition into a permanent position. So what I'll do today is I've divided the talk into like 7 important criteria that you should look for when you are searching for a postdoc, right? So we'll go through each of them, and I'll pause for each of those, and then give you a little bit of perspective from my own institute. So let's start with the first one, which is institution. So how do you decide what institute you would like to, do a postdoc in? So there are different types of institution. So maybe you want to go into a more academic institute because you want to have a healthy balance of, research and teaching, because you want to go into academia after this. Maybe you want to go into industry. Now, industry has a lot of postdoc options. So you want to have the right equipments, no worry of funding. You only want to do research. So that's a very good idea. Academic research institutes or hospitals are the third category, which is a good balance of academia and industry. So you get the equipments and the funding, but you can also maybe get some teaching opportunities as well, for example. And you're still considered a trainee, that you can get professional development benefits. So I'll come to that in a moment. So with this, let me introduce St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. If you haven't heard of us, we are a nonprofit basic research institute and hospital. We are housed in the same facility. Don't know if I can use my... No, okay. We are devoted to basic biomedical research into the molecular basis of biological process. So our main mission is to find cures for catastrophic childhood diseases. So we have an inpatient clinic, and I can't use my mouse. So we have an inpatient clinic, and we also have our research facilities all within the same campus, which is in Memphis, Tennessee, in the United States. And we also have our own good manufacturing practices. So basically, we have like the whole deal, kind of you do the research in the lab, you have something which is which can go up to clinical trial. Then we have our own GMP where you run it through the federal regulations, and then we have our own clinical trials running. And the kids who get treated in our hospital, they can get some really unique treatments. So we do bone marrow transplantation for cancer patients. We have our first only for kids. We have our proton beam therapy beam radiation therapy center, for example. So there's a lot of different kind of treatments happening, and with that, a lot of research happening that goes into making the treatment. Now, a good thing about okay, let me finish this. So our campus is growing. We have now like a new again, this is like on the right hand side, the building you see, that's the latest building that's come up. We are facilitating more growth in the next 5 years, maybe increase by 25%. And just because I guess most of you are in computational biology, we have been getting new centers of excellence, which will also include a data-driven discovery center. And we also have a lot of collaborations with faculty within US, but also outside, especially in developing countries. So our main goal there is to, hopefully, get these cures out for children in developing countries who wouldn't usually get access to these kind of treatments. Okay. So one of the good things, if you're considering, doing research, translational research, let's say, going to a research hospital might be a very good idea, because there is discoveries that are made in the lab can be relatively easily translated into the design of new clinical protocols. And then observations made into the clinic can be fed back into the labs to generate ideas for new development. So one really good example is the chemical biology and therapeutics program, which is actually the only program of its type for children. So on the top right, the picture you see, it's an automated storage and retrieval robot that can take samples from the chemical library and plate them into multi-well dishes. And then this can be screened robotically in the lab for their bioactivities, to identify those that could potentially be used as novel therapies. So like a really good, collaboration between labs and clinic. In areas of computational biology, also, we have done a lot of translational research. So in 2010, we started something with University of Washington called Pediatric Cancer Genome Project, the first project of its kind, where we did a whole genome and cancer genome sequencing of 800 patients in the next 10 years, and a whole exome and whole transcriptome sequencing of an additional 1,200 patients, which included 23 different pediatric cancers. And the results have been used in many different ways, but just to show you one example, is almost 1 in 10 of the 1,200 children and adolescents in this study, they carried germline mutations in known cancer predisposition genes. And this has been very helpful in going forward and predicting a lot of different data. So from here, we came up with the idea of making a lot of this data that we collected, accessible to everyone. So we have something called St. Jude Cloud. It's an open access server that any of you can use. The picture looks a little bit weird, but basically the idea is to store the data from, the variety of childhood cancers, including hematological cancers, brain tumors, solid tumors, as I was telling you, and you can go ahead and look into this right now. Our researchers are also developing softwares that if your background is not computational, you can go ahead and use those softwares to analyze the data as well. The data that we collect from survivors of cancer is also being stored. So just to understand what's the long-term impact after they have been cured, can also be seen. And recently, we have started including non-cancerous diseases like sickle cell anemia is a big part of that. So here is a link if you want to go ahead and take a look. So with that, just to very briefly show you like the diversity of the areas that we look at, I have highlighted a few of them which you might be interested in, given your background. So we do anything in disease biology, you can see here. And on the bottom, there is a link that you can go to find more about the faculty that are in these areas and what kind of research they are doing. Okay, so we will go to the next criteria, which is mentors that you should be looking at while finding a postdoc. So, like, who are you looking for, right? Of course, during your PhD, you might have done the same thing, but as a postdoc, you are becoming a bit more independent, right? So, having that relationship with your mentor when you're looking for a postdoc is really important. So when you are going for an interview, having that conversation about their mentoring style is really important. For example, getting to know whether they are too hands-on or hands-off. Is that something that you are comfortable with? Of course, you have your own style. Is that something that is compatible with the mentor style? It's very important to understand. A lot of the PIs are really busy, so they might not be available for days and months. So knowing about availability and approachability, and how many lab meetings they do, how many one-on-one meetings they do with their lab members, are they available via email if you need them? So these kind of questions, if you want to ask. Of course, the publication record, um, you know how quickly or how fast they publish and what impact factor they're publishing usually gives you a good idea of their research. And then again, as I said, as a postdoc, you are getting into that independent mode. So would that mentor be comfortable with you independently reviewing papers or independently writing grants or becoming a co-PI with him or her on a grant? So these are the type of questions you should be asking. And not only to the mentor, to the lab members as well, right? So when you go for the interview, definitely ask the lab members as many as possible, not only one, because different people have different perspective. So you might want to know all that. And again, coming back to having your best interest in mind. So definitely before you ask them, like you should know like what you are looking for, and then try to match that, bring that compatibility. So just a few more questions which I've pointed out is like, project wise, the research project you will be working in, who is deciding. So if the PI has a fixed project, will you have any say in how much, independence you have in running the project? Again, going from the independent mode, right? And then let's say you want to stay in academia and become your PI yourself. Would you like to take, can you take any aspects of that project with you when you are like going out from the lab? And then, some more like really going into details like the financial support, who is funding the research. Usually the PIs are, funding the research from their own grants. So that's usually the case, but it's good to ask always. And then one thing that really helps you understand the mentoring style and the capability is what jobs the previous postdocs have gone on to. So what have they done? Like you can see usually the lab website might have this information. If not, you can ask the current lab members. So that, some PIs prefer that everyone goes to academia. Maybe you're not, you want to go to industry after this. So you want to have that clear, that clarity in your mind. So I'll just move forward, respect of time. So let's go to the third criteria, which is the project that you are working in. And then, with that, maybe the laboratory and core facilities that you will be using. So choosing the right project. So what to look for again, like how interesting is the project, right? We talked about this a bit before, but it should not be just a direct extension of what you have been doing in your PhD studies, right? It should have like that flexibility that you can learn some more transferable skills. You should also be able to see if it has potential to generate data. like whether it's a very safe project or it's a high risk, high gain project, something that you want to look into, right? Both has its own pros and cons. So you have to be careful about, like jumping on a really high risk, okay, I'll get a very good paper maybe, but are you like, is that mentor going to help you with that, right? So all these should be thought through. And of course, as a postdoc, you will have more independence. So are you getting that, like the opportunities to do your own project management? For example, maybe are you mentoring like grad students or undergrads when you're doing your postdoc? So along with being in your own project, you need the right kind of laboratory and facility support. So when you're thinking about that, you're looking basically at maybe the size of the lab. You might have a preference of a small or a big lab. How diverse the lab is, you should definitely look into that, because the more diversity there is, the more you will learn. Opportunity to meet all the lab members. Make sure that you ask for that during your interview process, that you're meeting enough lab members, even maybe the collaborators of the PI that you're meeting. And then, of course, take a lab tour, look at the equipments that are required to complete the project. And most of the universities, they will have like shared or core facilities that can help generate data quickly. So ask around for that as well, like if you have that kind of resources other than the lab you will be working in. So just to then go into like what kind of resources we have at St. Jude, we have around 20 of these shared facilities. And again, I have highlighted some of the ones that you might find interesting for your own, depending on your background. But basically, the idea of core facilities are to help you expedite the part of the project which you really don't have to take enough time, right? Which is not involving brainstorming, which is maybe tedious work. So the core facilities are available. The other thing that students usually don't, think of is using the core facilities to get trained as well in something that you are not familiar with. So St. Jude really encourages that. So the shared resources are like they are, you can, any postdoc can use it at a minimal cost, so you can get training on something which may not be directly related to your project, but that would be a good addition to your CV, for example. Okay, so we will move on to the fifth criteria, which is scientific infrastructure. Now, by that, I mean, we have talked about the mentor, the project, the lab, the core facilities, but what about the community that you are around when you are in a certain institution, right? So a couple of examples of like what you should be looking at, right? So as a postdoc, if you're independently working, you should have that stimulating scientific environment where you are getting new ideas, right? So for example, having like multidisciplinary working groups, so you are getting bouncing ideas of each other, like having collaborative research, having a variety of seminar series available, for example, that you can utilize to either have colleagues answer maybe any questions, or even talk to some great researchers all across the country. So are these kind of opportunities available at the institute that you would want to go to? Also, like it's a good idea to look at the scientific community. So, like as a postdoc, how supported you are, right? Like with other postdocs, and then for mentoring, like do you have grad students, undergrads that you can mentor? So, just the scientific community in numbers, and then being a research hospital, for example, St. Jude has like clinical fellows, which is a really great idea. Like if you're you're a postdoc, you can go and collaborate with some of them to get to know the other side of research or the other side of, clinical like part that's happening, right? So all these things that you can keep in mind when you're thinking about going to an institute. And another really important thing, again, something we overlook, is the support resources, for example. So, and a lot of actually universities don't have this, but luckily we have that in St. Jude. Is the just for example, if you are writing a paper for the TOI. Usually, a lot of us are not really good at graphics design, and we have to come up with something really creative, right? So, do you have that kind of support to come up with something creative? So, we have scientific illustrators, for example. For manuscript editing, right? You write and you go back and forth with your PI like all the time, like, okay, there's a, cross the T's and dot the I's kind of. But what if someone's there, or someone like professional is there who can help you with that, right? So these kind of like help, like patents. A lot of you might be thinking about getting a patent. So is there like a technology publishing like facility in that institute that can help you with that, for example? So yeah, again, lot of information here, but feel free to ask me questions later on, and these are also available online if you want to take a look. Okay, so coming to the penultimate one, institutional support. So we talked about lab, core facilities, now going a little bigger. What kind of institutional support you can get other than this? Do they have a postdoctoral affairs office, right? Who can, who are kind of your voice, who can help you get the training other than the research, right, while you are a postdoc. Funding structure, of course, that's very important. And nowadays, a lot of laws require it to be transparent. So you might be knowing a lot of that already, but make sure you understand the full structure and the benefits that come with it. Is that enough to support your lifestyle? Maybe you have a family. Is that good enough for everyone? Postdoc council, where you can raise together, you can raise a lot of like concerns and bring that to the higher leadership. And in general, postdoc support. I'll come to those. I'll just go briefly through each of them a little bit in St. Jude's perspective. So at St. Jude, we have an Office of Academic Programs. We are dedicated to ensuring that all postdoc fellows receive the maximum benefit from their training experience. So of course, like, as I said, I'm a recruiter, so we help with recruitment, the whole process. We also help with relocation, immigration assistance for anyone coming from outside, then continued education and training, career advising while you are a postdoc, and then, just we are like the liaisons between like postdocs, faculty, and administration. And also, a very important factor, while being researchers, you're not only have a research life, you have a social life as well. So balancing that out. Let's first just go into the career advancement part. At St. Jude, we have something called SMART plans, which is the goal is to support training and career development and job placement for St. Jude postdocs. SMART plan is short for strategic milestones and research training. So basically, what as a postdoc, you really don't have any defined milestones per se. But what we do at St. Jude is to give you that really, focus. We will work with you in the beginning of your postdoc to set up maybe a 2-year timeline where you decide, okay, after my postdoc, I want to become an independent investigator, right? So what are the things you should be doing? You should definitely write a grant, for example, as a postdoc. So like attend grant writing workshops, what kind of seminars you should be attending. So if you have a career in mind, based on that, we can plan out what we are calling SMART plans. And that's something new that we have started recently is called Career Advancement Program, or CAP. So this is after you finish your postdoctoral training. If you are at that point thinking of going into non-traditional careers, we will help you in finding that by putting you into a 12 to 8 month fellowships within St. Jude. So you can go into administration, program management, science communication. Talked about the good manufacturing practices. That's a good idea of how industry works. And then, of course, research and education. So this can give you a very good idea of, careers in science, but outside academia. And then we will help you with placement outside St. Jude as well through career advising. Okay, so one thing I touched upon was your life beyond the bench. So while you are looking for postdoc positions, definitely, go around and ask what people do outside their lab, or even with their lab members, but outside their work time. It's very important. I can't stress enough. This is a long journey, so you have to pace yourself and not burn yourself out. So a lot of different things that you can do outside, just to you grow yourself, right? Other than research, so you can continue education, teaching, mentoring, joining a postdoc council and working with other postdocs to on different kind of things like seminars, or bringing up issues that affects everyone. Joining institutional committees, so you work with faculties on those and get to know how administration works, right? Volunteering for within the city, maybe high school volunteering, or we have for our patients, a lot of our postdocs volunteer to do a lot of things, because these little kids, they're waiting for the treatment to take place, so getting to do something good for them. So these kind of things you can do. um, and then having that community support. So this is something that a lot of universities have, which is called employees and allies resource groups. So something you might want to take a look at when you are going for these interviews. So these are basically building small communities which identifies with you within the larger postdoc community, for example. So for example, we have a Black employees group, military support. We have a Pride employee resource group, as well as a woman employee resource group. And I'm a part of the woman employee resource group. And what we do is we hold book clubs where everyone comes together to, discuss their opinions. So it's just a reformation of, your identity and common, similar minded people. Okay. So let's move to funding. So something that's very, very important when you are in doing starting a postdoc, you are in that stage of life where you might have started a family, or you have a family, so you have to think holistically. What about the salary, and not only salary, and who is paying? Are you supposed to bring anything to the board before joining? Are you being asked to write a fellowship, for example? So these kind of things you have to take into you have to think about when you are looking at these positions. At St. Jude, you don't have to bring your own funding. Faculty usually have either NIH, which is federal funding, but also they have enough funding, and St. Jude is well funded that they provide funding as well. We also have something called T32 grants, which are training grants for postdocs that again federal funding allows. And usually the postdoc funding, when you come in, you will get an appointment for up to 2 years initially, and that can be renewed annually for up to 3 additional years. So a total of 5 years you can be a postdoc at St. Jude. And then, of course, another thing I know it's very near and dear to all of us is diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, right? So you might want to check how the institution is dedicated to that. Some additional benefits that again goes into your holistic life approach is retirement benefits. Postdocs are treated as staffs at most places. So are you getting retirement benefits? We also provide professional development allowance, for example, which you can use. This is per year, which you can use to go to conferences, to maybe learn something new when you are as a postdoc, right? To have your own, to have your own growth other than research. And insurance plans, how they are covering insurance. So these kind of things, right? If you want to take a look at. St. Jude also has our own coordinator of postdoc programs who helps with relocation. And to Memphis, if it's a new city for you, once you come in, you can work with our postdoc coordinator to get like a place, and then obtain like usual documents, maybe even a driver's license, for example, setting up bank accounts and stuff. So you can do all that with our postdoc coordinator when needed. Okay, with this, I think I have enough time. Yeah, with this, I'll go to the last criteria, which is location. I know this is, and these criteria I should have said at the beginning. These are not like in any like importance, like level of importance. It's just some criteria that I have mentioned here. So location for some of you can be very important, depending on maybe where your family lives, where you might have a two-body problem, so where you can move. So a few things that we think might be important is, of course, the cost of living. So with the salary you are getting, is that enough to cover rent and accommodations and the food, monthly cost of food and everything? Commute time, how far and how close can you stay to the campus? Does the campus have free parking, for example? Most of them don't in US, but good question to ask. And then if you have kids, school options, and while they're growing up, is there enough to do? So museum and arts, enough greenery. Some of you might like the downtown option, really great nightlife maybe. Some of you might be going for the more greenery, trails, walking trails, and physical fitness, and maybe sporting events if any of you are sports fans. So yeah, so all this to take into effect, right? Just to let you know about Memphis, where St. Jude is located, the cost of living is really low. So with the salary that I showed you 2 slides back, you can, in a couple of years, you can actually buy a house. That's how good it is. There's a lot of, it's situated right next to Mississippi River. So there's a lot of like greenery, river activities that you can do, bike lanes. And then I don't know if any one of you know, but Memphis is called the City of Blues because Elvis Presley was born there. So there's a lot of music involved, and so lots of things to do over there. Okay, so I have now gone through the criteria of postdoc search. Now, when to start the search, right? If you are doing your PhD, a good suggestion, and this is just a suggestion, is maybe when you are around 6 months prior to completing your PhD, right, prior to starting that new position. And the main reason we say that is the process of postdoc interview and everything that can take up to 2-3 months. So you might have an offer later by the time you are going to write, like really go deep into writing your thesis and doing your dissertation, right? So this is just a suggestion. Lot of our candidates do that. But it's up to you if you're deciding to stay back in your PhD program, or if this is your second postdoc, you can definitely do it anytime you want, right? So the traditional method to apply is you contact to the faculty directly via cold emails. You send your CV, maybe a cover letter to them, which is usually works maybe 50% of the time. At St. Jude, we have the office that I am in. So we work with you to find the best fit for you. So you can contact us directly, and you can email your CV to us directly, and then we can work with you to find the best faculty. So there can be multiple faculty, and then there's some information. The email is given to which you can send your CV, and I have a booth number 8 here. I'm available there tomorrow till 2 p.m. So if you want to learn more, I will be happy to talk to you about that. Just one more thing about something that we do for professional development and networking purposes is when we go to conferences, we meet a lot of talented researchers like you, and if we get your contact details, we send you an invitation. We send you an invitation to apply directly to apply to what we call, two symposia, graduate symposia, NGSS and FFRC. And if you apply and get selected, it's a couple of days, fully paid trip to Memphis, and you can literally see like all the things that I talked about today. You talk to faculty one-on-one, you see the lab resources, the core facilities, you get a trip to of Memphis, and you present your own research. So this is a great networking opportunity. You can start collaborations, and if you really like what you see, you can come back for your next purpose and next career step. So again, come and meet me if you would like to receive an invitation or application, and I can add you to the database. So to finish off, at St. Jude, we have really high quality science, really great mentors and faculty who are pushing the boundary of science every day. A lot of opportunities to do translational research and in a collaborative manner. Extensive research facilities. We have a lot of funding, really well funded since we are a nonprofit, and strong faculty and support staff. Hopefully I've convinced you on that, and a really close-knit postdoctoral community. So that's it. I'm available for any questions. Thank you everyone for listening to me today, and hope you had a good conference so far. Thank you.
Thanks. Now let's see, is there any question in the room? Okay.
Thank you for the talk. I was just wondering, like sometimes I see that in postdoc positions, the requirement that you have to finish, like your PhD must have been finished.
The degree, you mean?
No, degree, like no later than 7 years ago. So do you have something like this, or is it like common in general? So you only can start postdoc position no later than 7 years of your finished PhD.
Got it. Yeah. So it's usually not a written rule. No. I think what happens is when you have something like that, where you have finished your PhD a long time ago, we encourage those candidates, and we do get them because they may have gone to industry or maybe doing something else. So we ask them to write a cover letter explaining what they have been doing in the meanwhile and how that has added to their skill sets, for example, and why they want to come back to the academia. If that is the PIs look into that, and if they are satisfied with that, then they will definitely going to interview you. Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. I was wondering if you have any tips on the other side of things, what an employer, like an institution, could look for at the PhD student, basically applying, talking for myself, but also in general for a postdoc. Thank you.
Yeah, so you mean what we are looking for when we are looking into postdoc applications? Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. So we are usually the first, when we as postdoc recruiters, we are looking into applications or CVs, we look at the relevance of the work, like what your research interests are, if that's a good fit, because usually that's a great that's a great way to understand if someone would be really interested in the work, right? Because the curiosity is very much more important than just having good publication record and everything. That's our first criteria. The other criteria is having some way of like showing some proof that you have been able to publish. Now, as a PhD student, a lot of you might not have published yet. That's okay. What we say is in your CV or resume, you add the manuscripts under preparation or under submission, right? You definitely add that part. And I know like a lot of PhD students, they go on to postdoc and their papers are still being published, right? So that's completely fine. But that is another criteria that faculty look for, and if they have any questions, they can always call and talk to your advisor to see how much contribution, when that paper will be published, and if they have any concerns about that. So that should be fine, right? And the third thing we usually recommend is writing a cover letter. If you have someone in mind, you really like their lab, then you write a cover letter, very simple one page cover letter, where you shouldn't only talk about your skill sets, but should show how you think you're a good fit for their lab. Faculty really like that because they can see that you have done some research into their lab and you are thinking of that, you're really interested in their research. So that really catches their attention. So I think like these are the main criteria. And then usually at St. Jude, I have seen that faculty will do a first interview with you to kind of figure out where your interest is and where their interest is. So that's a great, if you get that interview call, like have some questions for the faculty as well, right? And that's a great way to understand like where it stands. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. It was really informative. My question was, what could you go into what the difference was between the two symposia?
Yeah.
So the NGSS and the FFRC.
Yeah, it's basically the same. We actually get a lot of applications. So we get 60 students selected every year, and we basically divide them based on the when they are graduating. So if they are graduating early on, we will bring them in March, which is the NGSS. And then if they are graduating a bit later, we'll bring them in June, which is FFRC. Yeah, it's basically the same. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's take